Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We are so excited about this topic, the food service. We also launched a new channel in Slack. If you haven't seen that yet, you can just search in the channel's food service. And we want this conversation start here at the webinar and, of course, keep going in the chat. But today we have Dina here with us from RIND, an amazing vegan cheese. By the way, if you guys haven't tried yet, you have to try. And she's going to talk a little bit about her journey and how RIND joined the food service channels and give some tips. So hi, Dina, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Dina DeCenzo. I am one of the co-founders of RIND Vegan Cheese. My co-founder is Joshua Catcher. We are located in Brooklyn, New York. We have a facility in the Brooklyn Army Terminal in Sunset Park, and we founded RIND in 2017. We started off with an aged vegan cheese. We are known for our blue and our cam blue mix. And we added spreads, and soon thereafter, our slices veggie underground, which we expanded the line this year. They are made from real vegetable purees, unlike other vegan cheeses on the market. And they come in carrot, parsnip, and red bell pepper. So thanks for joining. Today, we're going to be talking about the food service industry and specifically RIND's journey into food service. It definitely is a competitive market out there. It's not an easy task to get into food service. It really depends on a lot of factors that are, some are within your control and some are not. The first and foremost important thing is, do you have a differentiated product? And is it something that would be able to set restaurants apart and food service establishments? So, when we first started out, we kind of started out in retail, but then we found that some of these retailers also had food service arms to their business. And so they started using our cheeses to push out through their catering business or, through their restaurants. And so that's kind of how we started. One of the hard things is really attracting their attention, because there are a lot of competitors in your industry, as well as ours, obviously, that are going to be going around to the same vendors and restaurants trying to get their attention as well. So, having a product that stands out as well as one that's differentiated is really important. And when you approach the restaurants, you should be able to talk about how your product is differentiated, why it would make the restaurant stand out, and maybe spend some time trying to, figure out a good collaboration to really highlight not only your product, but to put a special on their menu that would attract customers, both from, your client base as well as their client base. So collaborations are a good point to bring up when you're approaching people for food service, collaborations or usage. So one of the challenges, but can also be a benefit to you, is if the rotating and seasonality nature of menus in restaurants. So restaurants do tend to freshen up their menus all the time. And if you're in there already, it could be a problem if you're going to get bumped from the menu, maybe because they want to change their products that they offer. But it's also an opportunity to get into the restaurant. So, if you have a product that's seasonal, it may be a good approach when approaching the restaurants to get them around the time when they're looking at changing their menus. So, if the seasons are changing and you have a seasonal product that might work, approaching them 6 months ahead of time is a good idea, because it does take them months to get their menus in place. And so that can be an optimal time to hit them up. And even if they reject you, it's still good that they know your name and they are familiar with your product. And, it doesn't hurt to follow up every couple of months and just check in and say, hey, where are you now? Are you interested in this? And maybe giving them some incentive to try out your product, like a free fill, um, is a good way to attract them as well. Um, and one of the most important things, though, I think, is being price competitive. So, in addition to differentiating your product, can you be competitive with pricing? We've actually bumped several of our competitors by going in and matching the price of whatever they were using. So, it may squeeze your margin somewhat in a couple of areas, but if it's getting you in the door, that will give you promotion as well as more business, and um, it helps to expand your reach as well. I see a question. How do we distribute? Well, we do a combination of distribution methods. We are with several distributors. We're with UNFI as well as KHE. We also have some local distributors and regional distributors. And we do self-distribute. So in the New York City area, we do drop-offs still. And we also ship to some of the smaller vendors. So there are some small restaurants that just don't want to have to pay the minimum of the distributors because, I think UNFI has like $1,000 minimum or something a month. So it can be out of reach for a lot of the small restaurants. So that's why going through, a direct model or maybe even a, a regional will bring that minimum down. Are we with Cisco? We actually are onboarding with Cisco right now. So Cisco is supposed to be one of the better ones for food distribution. Food service distribution. So, but even the UNFIs and the KHEs do have a certain percentage of their business that goes towards food service. It's not as much as Cisco. Cisco is primarily food service. And self-distributing can be very expensive, but we do pass the cost along to the people buying it. They are willing to pay for it because it does give them a better product. And even paying shipping on it, it's still lower than the minimums of some of the distributors that they have at the ability to actually purchase from their area. Another thing to do to get into food service is to try to set up tastings with restaurants in the area, and that will help introduce yourself as well as your product to the chefs. We've done that with a lot of restaurants in the New York City area, and even when we travel, if we're able to set up meetings with local restaurants, we will. Actually, another way that is a good way to distribute your products is through some of these online vendors like Fare and Pods. So people will purchase food service through there, and Webstaurant. So we're also on Webstaurant. We sell our twin packs as well as 64-ounce tubs of our spreads through there. So let's see, for tastings, you set up events and invite them. So we will usually reach out to the restaurant and ask them if they're interested in setting up a tasting to try our products. And typically they are curious enough to set up a tasting. So we'll bring it to them and because it's cheese, we'll set up a nice charcuterie board for them. And for the slices, we'll give them a 2-pound twin pack to go experiment with in their kitchen. So, then we sit down and we go through the tastings with them and we give them suggestions as to how to use it, what might be some interesting recipes for their menu, or how they could actually work it into some of their existing recipes. So that seems to work pretty well.
Hey, Dina, really quick. Once we have a question, can we read the question so then whoever is watching the record will know? And then there
Sorry.
is another question I think you jumped from about margin from Dana as well.
Oh, okay. Oh, I missed that one. Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
How do you reconcile the margin differential? Is there a lowest margin threshold one should be willing to go? Yeah, I mean, it just depends on how badly you want to be in that restaurant. So, if it's a high profile restaurant where you think that it might give you some marketing credibility and clout, then you can go as low as you can tolerate. And again, that depends on your business. And you always want your margin to be as healthy as possible. But if it is one account or two accounts that are just phenomenal names on your resume, then I I would be willing to go on a pretty tight squeeze. So, um, but again, you have to look at your business as a whole. What does it fit in with your marketing plan? Does it fit in with where you want to be aligned? So there have been plenty of times when we've had restaurants see our cheese on a plate at like a fancier restaurant, and they are trying to improve how they appear, in the public eye, and so they are trying to emulate that other restaurant's, menu in a not outright copy it, but kind of get that same feel. And that's when they will approach us and say, "Hey, we saw your cheese on this other, um, well-known restaurant's platter, and we would like to bring it on." So, that can bring, even though you're being squeezed on one account, it could bring you four or five others that you have your normal margins on. So, it really is on a case by case business, case by case uh, basis. And I'll just repeat the question here since I didn't before. For tastings, do you set up events and invite them, or do you drop off samples? We will drop off samples sometimes, but we do actually go in and introduce ourselves, or we email them or reach out to them on social media. Or if we're even eating in the restaurant, we may introduce ourselves at that time and talk to them and engage them, and then set up a time typically to go and do a tasting in person with them. And that way you can also see their reactions. So if they're hesitant, you can explain away any hesitancies they might have. Or, if they have questions, you can address them right there rather than have them, put it aside and forget about it, or think it's just, too much of a hassle to follow up with you. Um, so in person is usually better, but it can be hard if you have a small team. So, um, even just reaching out and sending samples or even doing a virtual tasting can be done. And okay, let's see. Questions are coming fast and furious here. Okay.
Let me know if you need any help to like moderate the questions or you're
uh, How do you find the buyers? For retailers, we normally find them on LinkedIn. Yeah, LinkedIn's a good place to stalk people. But for restaurant buyers, well, it could be any kind of food service. It's not just restaurants that make food. It's institutions. It's major corporations. It's all the cafeterias that are in office buildings everywhere. It's nursing homes, it's hospitals, it's schools, it's everywhere. But finding, you have to think about where you want your product, what kinds of people you want to be selling to. So, if you want to sell to a school, you may have volume, but then you may not have the margin because the schools really aren't going to pay a whole lot. Whereas if you go into, a smaller chain restaurant or even a restaurant with, two or three locations, you may have better margins and higher, sales. So, um, but finding buyers, we do get a lot of them coming to us, but it is us reaching out to people as well. If it's a restaurant we've been to or that we've heard of that we like, or someone that we think has a similar um, outlook on things that we do. We're a vegan business, so we tend to want to work with the businesses that are also promoting vegan um, ideals. So, I mean, not to say that we wouldn't work with, like a McDonald's, but we absolutely would. But we tend to gravitate more towards approaching the the businesses that kind of share our same path. Do you ask restaurants to mention your brand or products on their menu, or is it up to them if they want to? It's usually up to them if they want to. We will tell them, like, we would appreciate it if you would, but you can't always make them. Um, you can say, well, I'm not going to sell to you then, but again, it just depends on how concerned you are about your name being mentioned. What we do prevent them from doing, though, is saying that they made it in-house or that it is their cheese. That's one thing we are sticklers about. So even if they don't mention our name, they definitely can't claim it as theirs. We have seen some restaurants do that to other businesses that we know. So we won't work with them. And they have tried to buy our cheese, but it just we don't work with people like that who are trying to co-opt our cheese. So while brand recognition is important, it's more important to not have them steal it, at least in our mind. This might sound goofy, but how do you even open the conversation? Sales is not my forte. Do you have a set pitch? It doesn't sound goofy at all. I am also not a great conversationalist, as you can probably tell from this webinar. But you just have to think about, what are you more scared of, your business failing or having a conversation? So, just kind of just approach it very bravely, I guess, boldly, and just go right on in. And if it's like a bull in a china shop, then so be it. But at least they'll remember you and they'll have your card. And, they may even buy your cheese. So not every conversation goes great or smoothly, but it can end up in a sale still. So, um, if you have confidence in your product, even if you're a lousy conversationalist, um, the main points of your product and the passion behind it should come through to them, and that does go a long way with them. So it's better to have someone who really knows their product and can advocate for their product, go in even if it's awkwardly, and rather than someone who just doesn't know their product or doesn't care at all. They can definitely tell. Um, so let's see. After the product tastings, what is the lead time between getting a positive response from the chefs and being able to bring in product via self-distribution versus using UNFI KE for distribution? After the product tastings, I would say usually at the product tastings, they will express interest or disinterest. Usually it's, we are interested in this. We are going to be, launching our new menu or changing our menu or adding products to our menu at this period of time. So, we would need to place an order by around this time. So they should be able to tell you rough estimates at the time of the tasting. Um, and, then it's up to you to be ready to go. Our product typically needs several weeks to make. So for us, we do need lead time. If you have a product that is shelf stable, then you were much smarter than us before we got into this, because that's the way to go. Anything that is light and shelf stable is the dream. But if you have, perishables that need to be made, you need to have the conversation at the time of the tasting with the chef to let them know what the lead time is going to be, so you can try to coordinate times as best as possible. Um, And as far as going with the distributor, you just, when you walk away, you kind of hope that they order. And so you can kind of keep emailing them and say, hey, did you order from UNFI or KE, or, and follow up like that. But, it is kind of satisfying when you are shipping it yourself, because you're like, okay, I know that they ordered this and they're getting it. Let's see, I work in package design, and I'm curious how much you think the packaging aesthetics matter when you're presenting your product to a prospect. Okay, so this is the good thing about food service, is that packaging doesn't really matter that much. So you would take your marketing materials with you. You can take a deck. You can take an example of your retail package. But for food service, you are going to have a different size. They want, economies of scale. So they're going to be bigger with, less packaging. So on our twin packs, which they come in 2 pounds, 2 pound deck of sliced cheese, and they don't have any stickers on them at all. So the only identification is on the outside of the case. So when they buy the case, it's got all the lot numbers and expiration dates and everything on the outside. So you save a bundle on fancy packaging when it comes to food service. So that's one incentive to be doing it, is that it's definitely friendlier environmentally and on your pocketbook when it comes to printing packaging. So what are the best ways you found to get someone who is hesitant to sign on to be on board with purchasing? I think just giving them incentives. If there's any hesitancy at all, lower the price for them a bit, or match whatever it is that they're using currently if you're trying to displace a competitor. And sometimes, that works. We recently had one of our competitors go into a sandwich shop and actually get combative with the individual. So I don't recommend doing that, because it was kind of funny when they emailed us to tell us that. So don't be combative. Be very polite if they say no, and somewhat respectful. But you can try to just sweeten the pot for them. A free fill, a discount, whatever you might be able to offer them. And how long were you in existence before you broke into the food service model? Let's see, or maybe too long of a question or hard to pin down, but if you had to give a startup CPG the top 3 do's and don'ts that you've learned in your business, what would those be? Let's see. I think, well, we got lucky as far as breaking into the food service business. We ended up getting in within a year, I think, of us creating our product. And it was only because our product is so differentiated. And this is one way to actually push your product out there and to get into it, is to tap into your connections. So you may know someone who is a chef or a waitress or a hostess or a restaurant owner. And they also have friends in the industry. So definitely tap into any of the connections that you might have, and utilize them to the whatever extent you can, because that will go a long way. People like to work with people that they know and who they have someone who they respect vouch for. So it's kind of who, but it's not always people who are in the position of power to order who will get you that connection. So just ask your friends, talk to your friends, you know try even the restaurants that you frequent on a regular basis. They may be able to connect you to other people in the industry. So when one chef started using our cheese, then they would also talk to their chef friends, and so we've made a few connections that way as well. It's not just all cold calls and showing up with samples. And then the top 3 do's and don'ts that you've learned in business. Wow. Okay. So the top 3 do's is, I think the top do is just be persistent. Go into cockroach mode and just keep going. It's you're gonna be it's gonna be a long slog, that's for sure. It's not easy, and you're gonna see a lot of, you know, like things not pan out, but things there's going to be a handful of things that do pan out, and so don't let the nose get you down. So just be persistent, and let's see, that's probably my one and only do. Just keep going. The don'ts, I think, don't expose too much on social media. I think a lot of people make mistakes doing that. Yes, you want people to see you, and you want to raise awareness of your brand, but I think you can expose too many um, secrets via social media, and you might not even know you're doing it. So, and I think, um, see, what's another don't? Um, I think just don't get discouraged. If you have a good product, um, just keep going. It's not easy. It's a tough business. It's an expensive thing to do. But in the end, it'll be worth it, right? At least we think. Are there any pricing models for food service similar to retail, and what margins are food service restaurants expecting? Um, We haven't discussed the margins with the restaurants, so um, we just know what they want to pay. Um, and it's typically whatever they're purchasing from their distributor, they don't want to pay over that price. Um, so when you are selling direct, um, you will probably be making a bit higher margin yourself than if you're working with a distributor, but you might not have the volume of what a distributor could get you. So there is a trade-off there. And again, it just is completely situational and depends on your particular business. Um, and I'm not sure if there's any formal pricing models for food service. There probably are, um, but I am not aware. Let's see. Okay, someone like cockroach mode. How did you convince consumers that aren't traditionally interested in a vegan product to change their eating habits? Well, because we know that vegan can be a dirty word. Like how many memes are there? Like, yeah, how we know the vegans here because they're always complaining or whatever the meme is. So yes, we are vocal. Not going to apologize for that. But we have taken more of the approach of we are just trying to put out a great cheese, and we target cheese lovers. And I think that has been appreciated by a lot of the hardcore carnivores, especially because a lot of them are, well, 86% of humanity just they don't have lactase to break down lactose. They just aren't born with the enzyme, and so they are these hardcore carnivores are lactose intolerant, and nobody likes to have chronic diarrhea. So they'll keep eating their cheese though. But if they're presented with something that is, um, a good product and not forced on them, as like, here, have this vegan cheese. We just say, here, have this cheese, and you can have some vegetables with it. So, because ours does have vegetable puree, then they tend to be a little bit more open to it. And um, we've gotten great feedback from all of the dairy companies. Every time we go to these conventions, we were actually the first vegan cheese to be in the dairy pavilion at the Fancy Food Show in Las Vegas a few years ago. And they all kept coming up for snacks, for grilled cheese sandwiches. So, if you just have to kind of find what is a salient point for them. So, some of these people, they have high cholesterol, and you can kind of tell sometimes by looking at them. And so you say like, oh yeah, you lead with that and say like, oh, this cheese is no cholesterol. And, so try to find the points that might be relevant to the individuals that you're talking to. So, um, sometimes people are really hooked on the palm oil issue. So we don't have palm oil, and that's one of our lines. And so once we, figure out who is into that, then we kind of push that angle. So it's really just about identifying who, what is the point that's going to get to the individual, no matter whether they're vegan or not. Like, what is it that individual is concerned with and cares about the most? Because not everyone cares about the same things, obviously. So you know. With the non-vegans, we just kind of downplay the fact that it's vegan, and we emphasize the vegetables. It's allergen free, and if you're lactose intolerant, it's fantastic. So um, that's what I would recommend for that. Let's see. What if your product is so new the restaurant isn't currently buying from a distributor? So yeah, even if you're not with a distributor, you can self-distribute. So just go in and introduce yourself. You can fire off some emails. You can try to contact them through social media or LinkedIn. Um, you know, Even just emails are good. But if you have some marketing materials and some samples, you can just go walking around and handing out stuff to the stores. Um, doesn't matter if you started yesterday or, have been around for years. So you don't always need the distributor. They make it easier, but let's see. What did the balance and process look like to sell to operators and to get new distributors when you were starting? Okay. Yep. So some distributors are just looking for new products. And those are the ones that are easier to get into. However, a lot of distributors will not take you on unless a store explicitly requests that they bring you in. And even then, it's a very long, drawn out process. It took us months to get into UNFI, and it took them months to place an order. So, it's a very slow process, and it seems like there's just no end in sight. And then one day it happened. So, patience and nagging. So, we really are not the naggy type, believe it or not. I know we're vegan, so you think we're nags. Yes, kind of. But we also don't really like to nag people. So, however, you do need to nag the heck out of the distributors. They don't care. They just don't. They are concerned about, the products that they already have on board, and they really don't care if there's another one, because that's just more paperwork for them. So um, you have to be very proactive and, get over the embarrassment of sending that 50th email about the same thing. They'll eventually come around, they'll eventually warm up and follow through, knock on wood. But it is a lot of nagging with working with the distributors. So in that sense, it is a bit easier to work with, just self distribution or Webstaurant. You can just, if you do get with Webstaurant, you can email your email list and email restaurants and contact whoever that you're selling through them. You can also go through the online ones like Fair or Pods, and that makes it a little easier too, because you can set whatever minimums you want on there, and it's a fairly seamless process. Did you have a marketing team out of the gate, or did that come over time? Well, luckily for us, Joshua was a photographer, and videographer for a long time. And he has taken 99% of our photos. So having really nice photos go a long way. So we did not have a marketing team formally until last year, about summer. I don't know, July, August. I don't know. He's on here. Our marketing director, Greg Langle. So he started with us last year, and he has just been with us since then. So yeah, we existed from 2017 until 2022 without a formal marketing team. So it was just me and Joshua and our one assistant, Eden. So it's we are still a small team. So now it's the four of us. And it may seem like we're a much bigger company than we are, but you're just dealing with a few people when you're working with us. So we don't have millions of dollars in funding from other companies. We don't have any support system from any of these big companies or investments, or investors. So yeah, it's literally just us and what we can do. So you're going to be stretched thin, that's for sure. And your chances are you're going to be working with other small companies who are also stretched thin, so they will understand. And it's about forming, kind of a community with those people and a relationship. And it's you're kind of developing two different relationships when you're working with either distributors or direct. And even when you work with distributors, you still are going to be, developing a relationship with all of your vendors, hopefully, whether it's just dropping in to say hi or dropping off a sample of your latest product or whatnot. Whereas if they just get it from the distributor without ever talking to you, I mean, it's great, but then it's just purely transactional. So if they are doing that, you should still try to introduce yourself and make yourself known, because, if they have some familiarity with you, it's just social psych 101, that whole foot in the door familiarity, breeds like. So if you do have somewhat of an established relationship, they're going to think twice before they kick you off their menu at the seasonal change. So, is Webstron a good channel for you, and do you do well with it? We just started with them, and it's been going well. So yeah, I would recommend Webstron. I think it's a good way to reach people in other states. It's easier to hit your home area full force, but to get to shipping across country and stuff, with perishables, I would rather have someone else shipping it than myself. So yes, in that sense, it's been good. Let's see. Oh, good. I've been stalked you a bit, and noticed that you had another business as well. How did you manage doing both? And does your other business still exist? Yes, I actually have 3 other businesses. I actually was at one of them this morning. I'm a nurse practitioner. I have a medical clinic. But that's just because I took DIY to the extreme and just didn't trust some of the doctors I'd come across in New York. And it was a 2-year degree, so what the heck, Then I have a tattoo shop and art gallery, and that still exists as well. But I came back to do this webinar instead of going there today. And then I have a consulting business with my husband for biostatistics and epidemiology. Let's see. So yes, they exist. I don't know how I'm doing any of it. And yeah, every day is just a blur. What does it look like working with food service management companies like Aramark, Sodexo, and Compass Group? We have not actually worked with any of those. We had Aramark reach out a couple of times, talk to them, and then disappeared. So I don't know. We haven't worked with them. So unfortunately, I can't answer your question. Let's see. How do you find the marketing person? Any tips? Oh, well, So I met Greg on the first day of undergraduate in 1987. We were in an art class together, and we were friends all through college, and stayed in touch, and then lost touch for a little bit, and then got back in touch, and then he ended up he was at the Frick Museum for years and years and years, and then just change in management happens, and you don't want to work for a psycho, so you leave the you leave the place, and their loss is my gain. So now he's with us. um, so that's how we found him. As far as hiring people, we haven't had great luck hiring strangers. Honestly, they're a little bit unpredictable and unreliable. I would definitely take a look at their resume very closely and stalk them online. If they post inappropriate things on social media, chances are they have no self-control and they're going to actually give away a lot of your corporate secrets. If they haven't held a job for more than 6 months, also a red flag. And if they don't have relevant experience, then also again, don't it's you want someone who like has experience and has a track record, and seems like a reasonable individual. And if you can actually work with them on a contract basis for a few months before you hire them outright, then I would suggest doing that, because people can behave at work for like 2 or 3 months, and then the crazy will really come out. So if you can just keep them on a contract basis until like they've kind of, let all their guards down, then, I think that's probably the best way to go. But yeah, it's not easy finding quality people, that's for sure. Yeah, let's see. Where are we at? Let's see. Do you use a 3PL? I do not know what 3PL is. And am I a lunatic? Yes, I am. Given that we provide branding services for not just packaging, but also those marketing materials you brought up, I am really curious about the answer to Dina's question about timing for a marketing team. Let's see. So you're a branding company. So, I mean, I think if you're going around to, do tastings and stuff, you want, a deck together, PowerPoint deck, something to show them, a sales sheet. You can also email that to them. Everything can be electronic. You should have those in hand before you go. As far as like packaging is considered, the food service packaging is really just ugly. It's a brown box with a plain white sticker on it. So, and everything inside is there's no labels on it. So, your branding you should have though from the start, just because it's gonna shape your corporate identity. And as far as a marketing team, again, it depends on your budget. We didn't have the budget for it. So that's why we didn't hire anyone for marketing specifically. We were just kind of doing it ourselves. And it was kind of languishing, but also for us, it wasn't really that necessary, because we were getting a lot of earned media exposure over the years and winning awards. So that kind of stepped in for our marketing efforts, luckily. How do I sleep? I don't. I don't at all. Let's see. I missed the half part. Who do you recommend as smaller distributions, and do you recommend any brokers and beverages? Okay, so I don't know anything about the beverage market. From the people I've spoken to, and I knew someone who used to work at a distributor, and he has since gone off on his own, Jeff Lichtenstein. He now owns or is part owner or owns it, I'm not sure, of Lava, Lava yogurt. So he could probably provide some consulting services for you for beverages specifically. I believe he used to work in those, and from what I could tell, it seemed like it was like a next level kind of competitive market, and totally different animal than dealing with, you know, food items. So for smaller distributors, you know, there's Chef's Cube in Ohio that we've used, and they were good. But um, it's for beverages, it's going to be different. It's going to be different than food. So I'm pretty sure, because I'm not sure that all of them do beverages. Like some will only do perishables, and so I think yeah, finding someone who deals in beverages, I think it's the hardest, harder business. Let's see. Oh, okay, let's see. Did you standardize a format for food service, or are you offering customers varying formats? Did you change your product at all for food service ingredients? Our ingredients didn't change, our packaging did. So for our spreads, the retail size is 8-ounce tubs, and for food service, we chose 64-ounce tubs. And there's a bit of a discount for economies of scale in that. But as far as, and the labeling too, for our tubs, for the retail, there's a sticker on top and a sticker on bottom. And for the food service, there's just the sticker with the ingredients on it. An expiration date and lot number, like very bare minimum. But it's not, the ingredients didn't change at all. It's just the size format. So even for, our slices, the retail shingle size has 10 slices in a shingle, and the 2-pound twin pack has 42 slices. So, you're using less plastic, since, you don't have to have so many different shingles. So your packaging cost should come down a little bit. Is your logo presented with your food service partners on menus? No, it's not. They don't. They don't really want to be. They're there to brand themselves. We might get a mention on the menu, but we might not. The surefire way, apparently, to get a mention on the menu is if the chef has taken an equity stake in your business, though. I've learned that. So, but outside of that, they're probably not going to. So let's see. Oh, what was his name? So Jeff Lichtenstein. I'll type it here. Lichtenstein. I think that's how you spell it. He's with Lava Yogurt. Yeah, that might be him. Let me see. Yeah, that's him. That's his link. Yes, it is. So I think he has a consulting business, and he seems to know quite a bit about beverages. Is your product being used in recipes on a menu? Do consumers know it's rind that's being utilized? Well, our aged cheese tends to be front and center on the charcuterie board. They do not always say that it's rind when it's on the board. Some restaurants do, some restaurants don't. And again, like, our only requirement is that they don't try to claim that they made it themselves. There are restaurants that use it as an ingredient. So like our spreads and our slices and shreds. So those are, they're on hamburgers, they're in Mexican food, they're on other sandwiches, they're in mac and cheese, they're, on pasta. So they don't usually mention it. Sometimes like the smaller restaurants will, because, that's just how they are. Like a smaller business is, can, not that they always do, but they oftentimes are very respectful of, like, another small business who's worked hard, and they want to give you recognition for using your product. So, you can ask them to put your name on the menu, but there's just no guarantee. So I think half the time consumers don't know that it's our cheese. And let's see, what margins are you aiming for in the food service side of your biz? We try to maintain the same margins across all products all the time. So the food service ones are slightly higher, but just given the nature of it. But they're all fairly similar. They're in the same ballpark. How do you think about expanding growth in food service versus CPG channels? Well, I think, you know, um, food service, it's better because you know, it's easier to just send a whole lot of product to one place regularly than trying to, reach individual customers who are just going to be buying a small retail pack each time. However, there's more potential to reach more customers, who are buying these individual packs than, you know, the restaurants. Like you have to hit a lot of restaurants to like continue the growth, or restaurants with a lot of locations. So um, we just try to grow anywhere we can, honestly. We're so small and we're still kind of scrappy, so we're kind of all over the place and do what we want. So we don't have any formal like, okay, so this month we're going to go hit these, it's kind of constantly like, oh, this looks like a good idea. Let's do this. Let's hit these people. Let's talk to them. Did you follow up with these people from last week? Okay, I forgot about these people from a month ago. Let's hit them up, so it's a lot of like going back and forth and going into everywhere. So, and it seems to be working okay. It's kind of chaotic, but it seems to be working. Okay. So,
That was so helpful, Dana. I learned it was. I mean, questions were like popping, and I learned a lot. I actually didn't know a lot about like food service, so it was great, and people were like really engaged. We have time for a final question if someone has. You can drop it here. But in the meantime, Dana, do you have any place that like people can reach out to you if they have any questions or?
yeah, sure. I'll put my email in the chat window. It's saycheese@rind.nyc. So if you have any questions or just want to connect, or, if you want to connect on LinkedIn, or, come by our booth at Fancy Foods. We'll be at the Fancy Food Show. I think, we'll be at some other things throughout the year. I don't know what yet. So thanks for listening to my stream of consciousness for the last hour, or unconsciousness.
No, it was really good. Tony made a great comment. He was like, there was really a lot of like honest information, and I love when a brand just come here and say the truth, about running a business. So I
Oh
really,
yeah, it's horrible. It's hard as hell. So yeah.
yeah. Well, it has to be said, right? Because it's like on social media, everything is just perfect. You see, oh, this brand is growing a lot, but there are so much struggles behind it.
Yeah, and even, I mean, social media is the place where people go to lie, like it tends to be like, it's their fantasy world. It's, how they get away from things. It's not reality. So also, if you have a ton of time to be on social media, you're not actually running a business. So, that's another way to look at what's happening on social media. So I
Yeah.
usually use it just to stalk competitors and see, what secrets they're giving away. So that's always fun.
Yeah. Well, that's why I have a marketing team.
Yeah.
Well, again appreciate your time, Dina. This was amazing. So we record this webinar. We are going to upload to our library, and we'll be sending a recording to everyone if you want to, go through and talk. But this was so helpful. Thank you so much again for your time. And yeah, I drop your email here because I know that it's just sent to me, but I dropped to everyone here so you have any questions or want to connect with Dana, feel free to do so. And I hope to see you in Vegas, maybe.
Yep. See you in Vegas.
Yeah, thank you so much. Have a good day. Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining
Thanks
us.
for tolerating. Bye.